Last year, I made carvable spray foam pumpkins by first making a silicone mold of our real pumpkin, and that video went on to reach almost 200,000 views. But one suggestion kept coming up, that I should have used brush-on silicone. So I decided to put that theory to the test, and along the way, I experimented with a few ideas of my own to see if I could make this process a little bit more approachable. And let's just say, I learned a few lessons the hard way.
Okay, that was a stupid idea.
But the real question is my original method or a brush-on silicone mold actually the better way to conjure up carvable foam pumpkins?
And to answer that question, I'm going to put this method up against my original one and judge them on 4 criteria: cost, difficulty, speed, and the quality of the finished pumpkins. Let's see if brush-on silicone is truly a Halloween miracle, or if I'm about to waste a lot of money and create an unholy mess.
Normally, using brush-on silicone to make a mold, especially if it's 2 parts or more, means building clay walls around your chosen object, making registration keys, pouring plaster, so on and so forth. We ain't doing all that. I'm going to try to simplify this by encasing a whole pumpkin in silicone, building a simple silicone flange around the vertical circumference, and then reinforcing each side with a plaster jacket. Then we can cut through our flange, and behold, our new mold. I actually built a prototype this way with a mini pumpkin I grew last year. It taught me a lot and proved that this crazy idea might actually work. So if you trust the mad scientist in me, let's get started with our materials. I'm using BB Dino brush-on silicone that I got from Amazon. It's $38 for 2 pounds, which I hope is enough. And if you're a member of the cult of Bezos, you can save a few bucks. I also added plaster gauze to my cart. I got the 6-pack just to be safe. Brushes and gloves come with the silicone, which is nice, but the gloves they provided are garbage, so I got some vinyl gloves, and clearly I used a lot. I also bought some plastic cups for mixing the silicone in. And we're going to need a pumpkin, obviously, but since I'm filming this in July and they're not available in stores yet, I used one of my foam pumpkins that I made last year, and it'll be a good specimen because of all the textures. That brings our total for materials to $71, so we're already doing better on cost. And maybe it goes without saying, but make sure to use a workspace that you don't have to keep pristine, because this is about to get messy. Since we have to encase the entire pumpkin, we're going to first create a reservoir so that we can pour our bottom. Most tutorials I've seen for brush-on silicone use objects that have flat bottoms or backs that can be left void. You can even see that on BB Dino's product video. So why do we need a bottom? The simplest way to put this is if pumpkin have no bottom, where put battery-powered tea light?
Now this stuff is a 1-to-1 mix ratio, but there's really nothing that tells me how much goes how far, so for filling this, I guess we'll just wing it.
I'm going to use 2 disposable spoons for each container, and I'm thinking about 4 scoops of each. The label says that you have about 3 to 5 minutes to work with this.
Well, that didn't quite make it. Now, I don't need it to actually be as tall as that cardboard, but I'm going to use some of this scrap that I saved from the prototype and see if I can fill that up a little bit more.
So I'm sprinkling in some old silicone, but it wasn't really being encased the way I wanted it to.
Okay, that was a stupid idea.
So I made haste to pick all that out. However, I had already learned from the prototype that the cure times on the jars are a lie from Hades. 15 minutes in was practically still liquid. 30 minutes was still quite tacky to the touch, so it took about 45 minutes before I'd consider it cured.
So since 4 spoons of each part only got me this much, and I have to cover this whole pumpkin, I have drawn 2 equal yet completely arbitrary lines on these cups, and we'll hope that's enough. Does that sound good to you?
I'm going to use my knowledge of cure time for applying the layers. Now the first layer does need to be put on quite runny to capture all the details. Here we go. But right off the bat, I'm already having an unexpected problem. I guess the surface quality of this foam pumpkin is really holding that silicone in place, so it's kind of hard to spread. So I thought I'd just try from the bottom too. Oh yeah, I'm unstoppable. But it didn't really seem to help too much. Well, it's gonna take a little more silicone than I thought. Got a few bare spots here and there, but the bottom's locked on at least, so that's good. I think what I'm actually going to do for the second layer is start from the bottom, so let's give it a shot. Hey, so I forgot to hit record, but let me tell you what's happened. Basically, it is all dripped down to the bottom, and I'm having to pull it constantly back up to the places that I want it. So this is a bit tricky to get the timing right. Well, I just finished putting my fourth layer on, and really I guess it only calls for 3, but I felt like I needed 4 for the best coverage, and I've pretty much used up all of my silicone, which means I'm gonna have to use this that I bought for my prototype in order to do the flange. That's gonna hurt our cost a little bit. This is a step that I sort of improvised upon. The flange is this raised ridge that we're going to later cut through so that the two pieces lock together. We're going to really need to keep our timing in mind here. We're going to pour silicone into a bag and then set our timer for exactly 30 minutes. At that time, the silicone consistency should be just about perfect for piping out of the bag like icing on a cake. But notice how I have it raised up on my old silicone containers? You're going to need that gap in between so that the flange can run through without getting messed up. So we're going to take our pumpkin and try to squeeze out as consistent of a bead as possible all the way around the vertical circumference, maybe about a 1/4 inch tall. Well, an unholy mess indeed. Pumpkin looks pretty good though. Could have done a better job making the flange go perfectly down the middle, but I think it'll still work. Well, after a hard day's work, let's go get plastered. With the pumpkin fully encased, we must now support the 2 halves with a plaster jacket. The galls can be cut into smaller strips and easily applied to the mold by dipping in water. I'm doing this outside with a mask because plaster dust is bad for you, and I'm wearing a jacket in July because the mosquito is our state bird. One thing we want to make sure of is not to cover up that top part of the flange so we can cut through it. But we're looking for about 2 solid layers, and it only took me 3 rolls to do the whole pumpkin. After a half day curing indoors, you can already see that the plaster is wanting to release from the mold, so let's try to get it free. Oh, that was nothing. Spoke too soon. Come on, dude. Oh, there we go. Hey, but if anything, this just kind of is a testament to how strong just a few layers of this is. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up and then we can cut our flange. Okay, so what we don't want to do is we don't want to just cut straight up and down that flange. So we want to instead cut with an irregular sort of jagged cut. That way the pieces can align themselves properly and they don't shift out of place. All right, so here we go. I'm going very slowly because I don't really want to cut into my pumpkin. Since this is one that I made, I'm trying to really preserve it. This is gonna take a while, but this is definitely one of those steps that you don't want to rush. This is kind of terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. But it is also kind of satisfying. We have 2 areas that have ripped. That sucks, but I think we can patch that up later. Now I can see why it took so much silicone. It really seeped into the pumpkin's textures. So I'm actually gonna snip some of that stuff off. And if you don't think I tried to find a way to speed it up, you're wrong. I also patched up those rip spots, and something I discovered I needed to do was to glob some silicone on the top edge where the stem is, because whenever you turn up the mold to put it together, the stem part was wanting to slump down. But regardless, it was still a little cumbersome to put this together. Well, I guess it's time to put this to the test.
Wow.
Something I forgot to show that turned out to be pretty important was to spray the mold and the pumpkin with water. This great stuff foam apparently cures with more humidity. And check this out. There is my genius engineering. So this type of mold usually has a clamping system, and I thought I could try binder clips, but they wouldn't fit. And, well,
Oy.
the prototype definitely didn't work without something holding it together. Let me know what you would have used to solve this problem. But after a while, it seems that the weighted mold is able to contain the expanding foam. And while that cures, I'd actually like to address another repeat comment I got about just where it is I'm able to store so many foam pumpkins. My genius wife came up with this idea to hang a cargo net from the ceiling of our shed. It was cheap and it's made of elastic material, so it has room to expand as we do more casting over the years. Now let's check back in on that pumpkin.
Looks like we do have a little bit of separation.
Okay, there we go. Okay, not too bad. Definitely like a warty, textured kind of pumpkin here, but hey, those are okay too. One awesome advantage of this mold is that it's so nice to be able to cast a whole pumpkin in one go. Remember earlier when I was talking about the importance of using a spray bottle? Well, I forgot to on this one, and turns out this mold seals out the humidity surprisingly well. It's okay though. This pumpkin will make another cool rotting relic in my collection. But lesson learned, don't forget your spray bottle. So for this experiment, I made 6 awesome pumpkins that I'm really proud of. But we've got to answer the question, is a brush-on silicone mold the best way to make carvable foam pumpkins? Well, let's look at the scoreboard. Was brush-on silicone cheaper? Yes. But remember when we tapped into that second set of silicone? That technically put us over cost. But this was a full pumpkin. My original method was only half a pumpkin, so that math still puts us cheaper. Was the brush-on process easier? Absolutely not. I think it would have been a lot easier if we had done half a pumpkin. Still, this was a little tricky. Was brush-on faster? Definitely not. This took days to make the mold even usable. A lot of steps involved in this, and they are pretty time-consuming. And last but not least, did this produce a better finished pumpkin? I'd say this was a tie. If anything at all, I could maybe say that the seams aren't as visible on this, but I don't think it's enough to count it. So with that said, is brush-on silicone the best way to make a foam pumpkin? It depends on what you value. Would you rather save time or money? Are you up for a challenge or maybe not so much? You've seen the scoreboard, so you'll have to make that decision, but not until you've seen the original method. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see my next Halloween yard project. It's big, it's a little intimidating, but now that I've told you about it, I'm going to have to commit. I'm not going to horse around and ghost you. Leave a comment if you've got any ideas of what I might be making. Alright guys, see you next time on Make Strange Things.